Hey everyone, in this video we're gonna dive into Substance Designer and we're going to build a set of textures that I've used for this projectile. So in part 1 we're gonna build a graph for our trail, and in the part 2 we're gonna take this graph and create some variations so we can have a bit more trails to choose from in the engine. We're also gonna take our trail graph and we're gonna create some soft shape sprites, as you can see here on my screen, to add a bit more details to the projectile. All right, so let's dive into Substance and let's create our first graph. Okay, so let's start with Perlin noise so we can extract the trail from it. In here, I'm just gonna go for maybe 5 on the scale. I'm gonna get for cross section, gradient mirrored. As you can see, you already got very simple trail line. Next, let's get histogram scan so we can extract the outline. And then we can control how much of the outline we're gonna need. Next, I'm gonna use bevel with the minus values because I wanna create a nice gradient for that trail, as you can see here. And finally, let's get a multi-directional warp grayscale. And I think this is going to be our core node for the trails. I'm gonna plug this in. In here for the Perlin noise, gonna go for low value because I need a little bit distortion, not too much, maybe something like this. And in here, I'm gonna add some value. So max seems to be 20. I need a lot more, so I'm gonna go for 200. And as you can see, we're already getting some nice swirls. Okay, next, let's keep maybe warp angle at the default. Feel free to check if you're gonna get better results. I'm just gonna keep it at default. For the direction, I'm gonna set it to 1 and I'm gonna keep the mode on average. Okay, now let's go back to our cross section and let's pick something a little bit more interesting. So I'm gonna scroll this until I will have a shape that I'm happy with. Okay, maybe something like this. I think it's got a little bit distortion here. So I might go to Perlin noise and change the disorder slightly. Okay, all right, something like this. So I see a clear line that goes from here to the end, and I've got a couple swirls in the middle. So I think this is exactly what I need. I still don't like this bit, so maybe try to disorder slightly until it disappears. Perfect. And let's see if we can create something with that texture. So I'm gonna get another multi-directional warp grayscale and another Perlin noise with slightly different settings. So for the Perlin noise, I'm just gonna get some random disorder for now. Scale, I'm gonna increase it maybe to 7. And for the settings on this one, let's just get maybe 80. Let's get maybe 20 degrees so we can have a slight angle there, and let's try a different mode, maybe max this time, and directions maybe 1 or 2. I think 2 gives us some swirls and details in there, so I'm just gonna keep it as it is. Okay, all right, so let's leave that one at the bottom and let's see if we can keep working on ours. I'm gonna add some blur to it because I need some nice glow around it. So I'm gonna go maybe with a 16 here, and I'm also gonna add some directional blur to it as well. I need this to be vertical, so that'll be 90, and I'm gonna increase the intensity of it maybe to, let's try 50. Whoa. Okay, 50. seems okay, but maybe I need a slight angle. So I'm gonna add maybe 120 degrees here. Okay. Next I'm gonna get this one, and I'm gonna see if maybe I can subtract one from another. Okay, but I think I want it the other way around. Something like this maybe, and obviously I need to apply blur now. Okay, I'm gonna maybe go slightly higher on intensity. I'm gonna move this up slightly, and let's see if we can maybe first add glow to our main trail, which is this one. So we need that glow, and I'm gonna use max. I'm gonna go down on opacity maybe to 50. 0.5, so that'll be like 50%. Okay, and next maybe let's see if we can blend it with the trail we've got here, and we're gonna try a couple different options here. So with copy we can go 50%, but I want to try actually subtract on the low opacity as well, something like this. So we get a bit more details, and we got our main trail there as well. Let's see if we can maybe create something slightly different. Add sub, that could work as well, but I think this area is overblown, so I'm just gonna try different options. Multiply, add linear, max. I think max could work, so let's go maybe with 50% on max mode. But I also like this trail, and the line here goes in the middle, so let's extract that shape using the histogram scan. I just need a little bit of data, maybe something like this. I think that will be enough. So we can add also this back into it if we need to, but let's maybe try to create a maybe highlights for the trail that we're gonna add. So let's get a directional blur. I'm gonna go with maybe 130 degrees and increase it to maybe 60 or even 90, and I'm gonna rotate it slightly. Okay, get it back down and back to histogram scan. I'm gonna start getting the position out of it. Okay, something like this, because I need breaks in between to add those highlights. Of course I'm gonna blur it afterwards just to get slightly smoother shapes, and it's something that we can blend back into our trail. Alright, so we've got this trail now, and let's see. I'm gonna double click. Okay, I'm gonna run it through histogram scan in case I need this to be slightly more to have slightly bit more contrast, maybe something like this, so we get rid of the stuff at the top. You can see here and here. Okay, it's not there anymore. Let's blend in our blur. I'm gonna use maybe add linear. I think safer option would be to go with max, and I think I'm just gonna go with maybe 50% for now. I can always come back here and add a glow around it if I need it to, but with this I'm just gonna maybe try to blend in those highlights we've got here in the same way. So I'm gonna use the max method. Okay, and obviously I don't need that much of it, so I'm just gonna add another 50% here. Perfect. Alright, so once we got this, I'm gonna run it through auto levels just to create a balance and grayscale. And now I think let's run a non-uniform directional warp grayscale. I'm gonna get a cells noise, cells 4, and with the default settings I'm gonna run it through blur, and I'm gonna adjust those settings in a minute. First let's plug it to the second input, double click, and let's see if we can create something interesting here. So for the intensity, let's go with maybe 150. Seems a bit much, so let's explore other options. I'm gonna actually change that to min, increase the trail length to max and trail curve to max as well. So I quite like the movement I've got here, and this is very nice blur in my opinion, but I need this to go maybe downwards. So I'm gonna rotate it until it goes downwards, something like this. I'm gonna bring back this trail curve slightly to add a bit more details and the highlights to the edges. Okay, and I'm gonna explore now options for that cells noise. I'm gonna maybe increase it or decrease it. Okay, and go to that blur and maybe put a higher value there, maybe something like 20. I'm gonna get a slightly different disorder to see what it does to my texture. And obviously I need to move that texture up a bit, so I'm gonna get transformation tool and offset it so it sits in the middle nicely. I'm gonna press space here just to see if it's styling. It does, so I'm just gonna disable it. As you can see, we're getting nice trail. Let's see how it looks if we're gonna add some colors to it. So I'm gonna add a gradient map here. For this color, I'm gonna go for something that is somewhere between blue and green. And at the here, maybe I'm just gonna add slightly bit more bluish tone to it. Okay, I'm gonna take this back slightly to see if I can bring a bit more highlights. Last bit would be the glow, because I want to see how it might look with the glow. For the glow color, I'm just gonna keep it white. And try to balance it slightly. Okay, so I think it looks okay, but I think it's better. It looks better without color. And let's see if we can maybe add some stuff to it. So let's explore this node. So I quite like that this trail actually is going downwards. It creates this nice highlights on it. So I'm just gonna keep it as is, maybe 150 as we had. Trails length. So I think you can bring a bit more data here, which is really cool. And trail curve, I'm just gonna keep it at the max 1. Let's go back to our highlights, see if we can maybe add or take some. So I think for that kind of trail we need a slight glow there, and for this one I think we can go even with the maximum opacity on that one. And finally, let's go back to the start. And in here, I'm just gonna scroll this to see if I can get a slightly more interesting shapes. I quite like this, very Necro style, I think. But now I'm getting too much data here, so let's go back to this blend, maybe get rid of it. But this seems to get rid of mostly at the bottom. I actually need there to be to have this glow there, so I'm just going to keep it at 0.5. I'm going to go to this one here and maybe take this one out to 0.3. Okay, let's go to this uniform grayscale again, warp grayscale, and tweak some settings slightly. Okay. Okay, so that's going to create a bit more details if you need. I kind of like this to be somewhere in between. And cells disorder. Okay, let's go to gradient. I'm going to offset this color slightly because I need a bit more blue values there. And also I'm going to tweak it to be slightly darker blue, so I get a nice blend between this greenish color to the blue. Okay, so that's our first texture. Let's continue this video in the second part, where we're gonna take our main trail, which is this one, create a couple of variation, and also we're gonna create some soft shapes for our projectile. All right, thank you so much for watching.